So first things first. So I think the idea is great. I think having a workshop webinar thing is great. Uh, One thing just to know, as far as what's actually working and what's effective now, is that hour-long things are not doing well anymore, especially when they know upfront it's an hour. It's just people just don't. They've been through so many of these; they're so jaded. It's much better if it is a 14-minute crash course than a 60-minute workshop, right? It's much better if it's like really something they can sit down and consume. It doesn't feel like it's going to be a huge use of their time and energy. They don't, because there's resistance. Like 60 minutes is a long time. You know it's great, but they don't know, right? And so like to get them to commit to 60 minutes can sometimes be kind of a challenge. You know what I mean? So I think what you can do, and this is something that we've tested out before, and it seems to be working better, not just for me, but for a lot of other people that have tried this as well, is you can do all right. So there's two ways you can do this. You can do a crash course, a mini kind of webinar, a micro webinar, some people call it, where you are presenting your 3x3x3, but you only go deep into one area of the 3x3x3. Okay. And this wouldn't necessarily be where you'd have multiples of those for people to watch. It would be, here's the one. And if you want to dive deeper on the other areas, here's an opportunity on how to do that. And that's in having a conversation with you. I wouldn't necessarily do one that covers all of them. I would just do the one because the goal is to get them in conversation. The goal is not to have them continually watching content over and over and over again, right? If this resonated, let's have them get in touch with you. So you can do it that way, or you can do the full 3x3x3 and kind of just skim on each area. I personally feel like right now, the thing to test with would be to do the deeper dive on one pillar as opposed to a shallow dive on all three, right? Does that make sense? Because then you can also dial in the problem and the promise more because you're just going to be talking about one side of the pillar, one pillar of the triangle, I should say. But you're still going to show them the whole thing. So they're like, oh, that's cool. I would love to know what the rest of that looks like. And also make sure that whatever you're creating has a natural lead on to whatever you want to have happen next. Mm-hmm. Right. So we should, in the midst of this, webinar, we should close one problem and open up another. And this is why we focus so much on the what and the why and not the how, because we want to get people to a level of clarity and awareness first, right? They need to know what the problem is, because if we don't, we need to have them really anchored into that so that the how is something that they actually want to learn and dive deeper into. But if we give people all the stuff right away, number one, it can be overwhelming. If they get the clarity on the thing and then you give them a bunch of the how stuff and they go off and they try it on their own and it doesn't work well, they can kind of be like, oh, this is more proof that I just can't figure this out, right? Because look, this person gave me this great stuff. It made all the sense in the world and it's still not working for me. So we want to get the whelm just right? One of my mentors used to say this: you don't want to overwhelm, you don't want to underwhelm. You want to get the whelm just right? And so that's where the what and the why come in. And so, we want to give them enough clarity. Like if I don't know why I can't seem to lose weight, and I've tried all the diets and I've done all the exercise things, and then somebody does a webinar and the focus of the webinar is figuring out why all the diets you've tried haven't worked. And then by the end of that thing, I am very clear, like, oh my gosh, I totally get now why those things didn't work. That's enough. Right? Because now I feel like I've gotten something, I have a resolution, and now I want to know, okay, cool. Now that I know that, what do I do with that so I can actually lose weight or get healthier or whatever? And that's the next step. If I were to try to force all of what they should do now with it at the back end of that, it's going to be super overwhelming, and they're probably not going to do anything with the information. So if you look at the what, if you look at like the our competition proof guide, right, the free guide, I share the what in so much as like, it's not just high level, like you need to build a tribe. It's like, when looking at your tribe, here are 3 things you really need to be doing. Now, I'm not saying how to actually do those things, step by step, but I am saying things like, you need to figure out what your HOF is, like what your hangout factor is. That's a very specific, actionable thing that I'm telling them. That is a what thing, but I'm not telling them exactly how to extract those things out. I'm not giving them worksheets and questions and journal prompts and everything else to figure out what that is. That's something that we would do together in the program. But just for them to be able to sit there and be like, oh, that's so interesting, because the people that I've bought from before, I've felt connected to them as a human. Wow, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. So it doesn't have to be a what that's like a platitude, like, believe in yourself. That's not a what, right? That's a bumper sticker. Yeah. What I need to know is, why am I not already doing that stuff, right? So what I would want to inject in there that takes the what and leaves it open to the how is to inject into each one of those. So we're going to talk about how to work smarter, not harder. And I'm going to tell you the tactic that you need to use and the reason you're not currently using that tactic now. So do you see the difference there between, like, you can go a little deeper into kind of the quote how by telling them what's actually going on, and listen to what I said there, what's actually going on. When you share with them what's actually going on, now they get clarity and they go, oh, yeah, I mean, everybody and their grandmothers told me to make sure I have my priorities set, to make sure I'm using my calendar wisely, to make sure I have work-life balance. But now I get why I haven't stuck with that when I've tried. Now you've given them a level of clarity where they go, okay, I need to see what else she has going on here. I need to see what else is on offer.